Hello, hey all, hey y'all. You that are watching live, as well as those that will watch this Kingdom Things podcast at a later space and time. My name is Nicole Phillips, and I am, just like you, a beautiful piece of artwork, a beautiful composition, a beautiful beingness, having an experience, having experiences within the creation in which we call God. Again, my name is Ashley Phillips. I'm a spiritual practitioner, spiritual healer, spiritual creative, young. I'm a spiritual practitioner, spiritual creative, I'm being guided to walk in who I am. I'm a theologist. I'm a young theologist. I am very well versed in the workings and the art of God, of our Creator. I am. Why, Ashley? God's like, I need you to remember why, though. I need you to remember why. It's nothing of your doing, Ashley. You being who you are is nothing of your doing. You being who you are is nothing of your doing. It is God says it's me, it's the way I created you to be. You being an expert in yourself and me in the relationship in which is you and I is because of God, because of how I created you to be. As I say, as I've experienced, our understandings of God will only go as deep as the understandings in which we relate and understand with ourselves. The way we relate with ourselves opens a wondrous worlds of understanding of who we are, of who our mirror is, who God is. So I'm a spiritual practitioner, spiritual creator, spiritual healer, young theologist. My name is Nicole Phillips. I channel energies and messages from God's creation and publish these energies and messages in which have assisted me with coming into further alignment with my soul's essence. And I have so much gratitude. So I publish the energies and messages in which God's creation channels through me within the Kingdom Things podcast. And like I said, these energies and messages in which I've channeled have assisted me with coming into further alignment with my soul, with my truth, with the energies in which animate my vessel. I love that, with the energies in which animated my vessel. For so long, for my life, for so long, I minimized who I was with, the understandings of what I saw in the mirror or what this world said, what I saw in the mirror was. So I minimized myself to relate and understand myself and appreciate myself as far as what the world told me what I saw in the mirror was. I'm a Black woman, so there's a lot of energies of disparity that are in the history of woman, in the history of Blackness, melanedness. And then I'm from the South. I'm born and raised in the South of the States, United States of America. This land is drenched with history. And God's like, I no longer want you to view this history of yourself in a disparaging way. God's like, I know what you went through because I created those circumstances to shape and mold you to who I intended for you to be. God said, I know what you've gone through because I created those circumstances in which you experienced, in which shaped you into who you are, to who I needed you to be, to become and do what I need you to become and do. God says, I no longer want you to look at your history in a disparaging way. For everything you've experienced, call it the makings of you. Before I would say the first half of my life, or I was mad at my younger self. I was mad at my younger self. I was perturbed at my younger self because of the reality that my younger self created for my younger self. As I minimized myself, therefore I minimized my reality. I didn't love myself. I hated myself. So my reality mirrored the hate that I had for myself. So God's like, remember, always remember, don't forget, everything that you are becoming, everything that you are, it's nothing of your own doing, Ashley. It is your Akashic record. It is your Akashic record. It's the history of your soul. It's the history of your soul. I'm being guided to read this definition of Akashic record from Wikipedia. In the religion of Theosophy, in the philosophical school called Anthroposophy, the Akashic records are a compendium of all. I'm so nervous. The universal, in the religion of Theosophy, in the philosophical school called Anthroposophy, the Akashic records are a compendium of all universal events, thoughts, words, emotions, and intent ever had to occur in the past, present, or future, in terms of all entities and life forms, not just human. They are believed by theosophists to be encoded in a non-physical plane of existence known as a mental plane. There are anecdotal accounts but no scientific evidence for the existence of the Akashic records. God said, Ashley, everything that you're going to become, everything that you are, it's no makings of your own. I need you to make it very clear to the world. It's no makings of your own. Why? Because what you're becoming is a template of who and what I want not only humans of planet Earth to become, but the unconditional love that I need you to exercise and practice and embody. This unconditional love that I want you to exercise, practice, and embody and create with. God says this unconditional love that I want you to exercise, practice, embody, and create your reality with. I want not only you and humanity to use this as a template for the way you live your lives, the way you relate with yourselves and others, and me with God. But I want all of my existence to create, exercise, practice, and live with the unconditional love that I created you to be, Ashley. I was forced into meeting my soul. I was forced, circumstances and conditions of my life were laid out so that I would have to meet my soul. Circumstances and conditions of my life were mapped out so that I would be forced to meet my soul. Circumstances and conditions were mapped out and laid out in my life so that I would be forced to meet my soul, to meet my Akashic record. You're no longer looking at your history of where you've been, what you've done, as sinful or unworthy. But the things that you've experienced, what you've become, what you've done, are the makings of you. The makings of you. The makings of you. The makings of us. The makings of us. The makings of humanity. The makings of humanity have been that of depravity. And being guided to go into the understandings that I channeled before of who the God has, planned for the human being to become, the angelic human being. So a human being that not only lives through its divinity or its light essence, but the human being that also operates and doesn't shun the makings of itself. God says, you met your soul. Yes, this is where I needed you to be. But do not shun the makings of you. Why, Ashley? You met your soul. This is beautiful. You're liberated. You feel more liberated than you've ever felt in your life. You feel more liberated than you've ever felt in your life. You feel more liberated than you've ever felt in your life. But do not shun the makings of you. The makings of humanity have been that of a state of depravity. And when I say depravity, this is an Oxford language definition. We have the definition moral corruption or wickedness, a wicked or morally corrupt act. And then the third definition of Christian theology is the innate corruption of human nature due to original sin. The innate corruption of human nature due to original sin. The innate corruption of human nature due to original sin. When we pair the ideology of sin with who we are, the makings of us. When we pair the ideology of sin with the makings of us, when we pair the ideology of sin with the makings of us, we create blocks and stagnancy within God's plan. When we think anything of God's creation, any aspect and dimension of God's creation as less than, we stagnate God's plan. And against God's plan, we have to get out of our box. This is a steady tool for me as well. We have to get out of our box of God's plan being minimized or narrowed in on our lives, how we want our lives to be, or how we want human nature to be, or how we want planet Earth to be, or how we want our universe to be. God's like, Ashley, this is bigger than you, bigger than we, bigger than the galactic experiment. I channeled a video. It's called Humans Ashamed to Be Humans plus the Galactic Experiment. I channeled information in regards to the galactic experiment, as we are energies using these physical vessels to, what's the word that's coming through? Let me breathe so I can catch it. Give me 1 second. I'm about to catch it. Not model, but we'll just say model, and then I'll have to go back. So, conception. Give me 1 second. I'm about to Google that. I think it's conception. Concept. So humanity. I'm so excited. Humanity, the galactic experiment, like what we think like it's hard for us to conceive of existence beyond the universes or even universes. So we're like, okay, we're starting to get into acceptance of a theory of a multiverse. So it's not just our one universe; it's multiple universes. We're accepting this. We've accepted this on many main stages in our culture and science. We're accepting the theory of a multiverse. So it's allowing our minds to expand, wrapping our minds around the fact that it's more than a universe, it's more than a multiverse. The stars and planets and beings of the stars and planets, energies of the stars and planets are a concept, one of infinite concepts. One of infinite concepts in God's creation. So God's like, Ashley, the makings of you, I don't want you to demonize them or think of them as sinful or gluttonous or you being in a state of depravity, but I need you to understand that and transcend. God says, I need you to transcend that ideology of sin, of wrongdoing, of bad, of depravity, of wickedness, of corruption. I need you to transcend that. God says, Ashley, humanity, I need y'all to transcend the ideology of sin, of depravity, of wickedness, of corruption. God says, I need you to transcend the ideology of wickedness, immorality, corruption. Why? The concept of sin, immorality, of wickedness causes you on an energetic level to shun or push away those dimensions and aspects of you, which are the makings of you, which will be utilized in order to assist with the further makings of you. God says, I need you, humanity, Ashley. I need you to transcend the ideology of sin. Because as you think of parts of yourself, places that you've been, experiences that you had, a sinful, wrongful state of depravity, you shun, push away on an energetic level those dimensions and aspects of yourself that we need in order to transcend you, escalate you into new states of yourself. Combustion, combustion, combustion. I do a lot of shadow work, like all day, every day. All day, every day, I'm doing shadow work. All day, every day. Like, I feel an energy that reminds me of something. I'm like, dang, like I feel an energy that I need to acknowledge, transcend, or integrate. All day, every day, I'm feeling energies that I need to acknowledge, transcend, integrate. And this is how it's going to be as we step into higher levels of conscious awareness. We're energies. And the energies that we are animate our physical vessels. So the things that we do, we don't do them for no reason or on a whim. We do them because they're energies that are conducting and manipulating and orchestrating the way that we move the things that we do. It's always an energy. The energy comes first and then the action. It's the energy and then the action. It's the energy and the action. There are many things that occurred in the makings of me that were the makings of me. Being guided to talk about myself. And I knew I was gonna have to talk about myself, and I don't like talking about myself. But God's like, you have to accept it. 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 So I'm gonna say this, and I'm grateful. Thank you, God. Thank you, God. Thank you, God. Thank you, my ancestors. I thought I was walking alone my whole life, right? I thought I was walking alone within the makings of me. I'm still in the makings of me, but within the earlier years of the makings of me, I thought I was walking alone. I thought. But I now know I have a legion of energies and spirits that were working to assist me to be right here, to be as I am, right here as I am. I had a legion of energies and spirits and beings that were assisting me to be right here as I am. I had a legion of beings and energies and spirits assisting me to be right here as I am in order to assist with God's highest plan. This plan of unfolding, utilizing, and creating with this unconditional love. And this unconditional love is the acceptance and the knowing that everything that is occurring, everything that is in the space of creation is contributing towards the highest good of all. Not only that, we're never alone because we're never alone. We're never alone. Every creation, it stems from another creation. So when we think we're doing something by ourselves, there are so many energies and other dimensions and aspects of God's creation that we might not be tapped in, tuned in, turned on to. We might not be able to perceive. We may not be able to perceive, but we're always being helped and guided in some way. Before I got in the shower, this beautiful download came in. And in the spiritual community, there's a thing about the bi-purification of timelines, And this never sat well with me because it just didn't sit well with me. So it's like the souls and people that have, done the work to ascend into the higher levels of conscious awareness, into the higher levels of, we call it the fifth dimension. That's what we call it. We call it the fifth dimension. So the souls and energies and people that have done the work to transcend into the fifth dimension will go into the fifth dimension, while the other souls that have not progressed to, I guess, the state that we made up to progress to whatever ideology that we thought would be acceptable to make into the fifth dimension, would go into another timeline where they would go to another planet or Earth in order to continue beingness in a lower density reality by purification of timelines. And every time this came up, I didn't like it. And I was like, God, no, no, we're not doing this. Like, I did not like it. I didn't like it. but we've lived external. We've lived invertedly in many ways. In many ways, we've lived invertedly, and this was the makings of us. It's no longer shunning or demonizing or ostracizing the makings of us. But we lived invertedly for some time, for many millennia. So we projected our energies and the makings of us on things outside of ourselves. The bi-purification isn't about anything external from ourselves breaking off and going a separate way. The bi-purification is about us coming into alignment with the understanding that we are internally multiple facets and dimensions, being able to acknowledge and accept the multiple facets and dimensions in which we are internally. The bi-purification isn't about external forces splitting off or doing its own thing. Bi-purification is about us being able to identify the different dimensions and aspects of ourselves internally to come into higher conscious awareness of self as the energies that we are animate our physical beingness. So I knew I was gonna have to talk about myself, and I tried to get out of it. I tried to get out of it unconsciously. Like I knew I didn't want to talk about myself, so I was like, let's go on to something else. Let me talk about myself like I'm being guided to do. Breathe. So there were many things that happened in my life and the makings of me that I didn't want to happen. I knew I was very set. I was very methodical, very planned out in my mind how I wanted my life to go. Very, very planned out in my mind how I wanted my life to go. I had a plan in my mind about how I wanted my life to go. Like I just knew like this how I wanted it. I don't want any other way. I don't want it any other way. One of the things that I planned to do was abstinence until marriage. It's something that I had dead set in my heart. But God's like, I needed you to experience some other things in the physical reality. So whatever happened, I intended it for it to happen for you to be who you are in this moment, and for you to be who you are in your future moments. So my Akashic record, I met my soul, and y'all are not always gonna get sermons that are like I'm just like giving out bars and just doing a damn thing. It's not gonna always be like that, because there's many dimensions to me, and that was one thing that I had to accept. Like I said, I do a lot of astral travel. I meet a lot of spiritual beings, necromancy. So I meet a lot of energies that have passed on to other dimensions of God's creation that have dwelled as human beings on planet Earth. So I have the understanding that like I'm deep in the pulpit. Like I have a Akashic record history deep in the pulpit. Like I've been a bishop, I've been a nun, I've been all of these things. I've been super pious. I've been super pious. The history of myself, there are many incarnations of myself in which I was extremely pious, devoutly religious, devoutly about that book, devoutly about those books, because I've lived and dwelled in many different incarnations with many different understandings of many different cultures and interpretations of what God is. I've lived and been as many different beings, incarnations, who were very well versed in the different books that philosophize who and what God is. I've been an incarnated as many different beings who were well versed in who and what God is in different religions and cultures. So I've been devoutly about religion. Devoutly, that's a big chunk of who I am. I've been devoutly about them books, about who God is. So now I understand why, I wanted to be abstinent until marriage. I understand it. I get it. Why my heart was like dead set on that. That didn't happen. And then there's some resentment there that I have to transcend. There's resentment there that I have to transcend, because I understand now that my mapping out of my life the way I wanted to go was a soul understanding that the way I wanted my life to be is mine to have. The mapping out my life and the way that I wanted to go was a soul understanding that the way I wanted my life to be is mine to have. The mapping out of me mapping out my life the way I wanted it to be was an understanding on a soul level that the way I wanted my life to go is mine to have. But God said, I needed you to go through some things to be who I needed you to be. The unconditional love, the acceptance of everything, everywhere, in every place is as it should be because it's going towards a higher purpose of the operation of the one, of the all, of God, the Most High, white light, creator energy, or unconditional love. God says, I don't want you to shun the makings of you. I don't want you to perceive the makings of you as sinful. I know that in the history of your soul, there are rules, there are commandments, there are philosophies that were set out and mapped out to say who mapped out the outline of who you should be. God's like, I should understand that in the history of your soul, there are commandments and ways to be that were drilled into you. And the way the makings of you don't look like those commandments and the outline of who you were taught God says you needed to be in order to be worthy. God said, I understand this, Ashley, but understand that I need you to transcend that ideology of worthiness, of what it is to be worthy. God says, I need you to transcend, Ashley, humanity, the ideology of what it is to be worthy, the ideology of what it is to be upright, the ideology of what it is to be pure. As we think of the makings of us as less than, we stagnate God's process. The way I was introduced to sex in this lifetime was less than desirable. Less than desirable. So whenever I think about sex, I tighten up. I get uncomfortable. And I ask God, I was like, what's that about? And I asked God, what's sex about? What's sex about? What's sex about? Like, what did you intend for it to be? What did you intend for it to be, God? And God said, I intended for it to be about procreation, about creation, about procreation, being guided to look up the definition of procreation. God said, I intended sex to be about procreation, the production of offspring, reproduction. And then God said, I intended it to be about about procreation, about reproduction. And God said, y'all took sex and y'all pulled it down. Y'all pulled it down to a state of depravity, moral corruption, or wickedness. God said, y'all did that. In the makings of you, we're not gonna lie, we're not gonna sugarcoat it. God said, we're not gonna sugarcoat it. Y'all took sex and y'all pulled it down to a state of depravity, moral corruption, or wickedness. I asked God why, and then it flowed in. Evil is, you can think of evil as many things, but I'm going to term evil the way God's wanted me to specify evil. Evil is the cutoff from your divinity. Evil is the cutoff from the understanding that you are connected to the higher power, that everything that you experience is in connection with the higher power. So when we're in the darkness, we're cut off from the light, or we think we're cut off from the light. We think we're cut off from all that is. We think we're cut off from the divinity of creation. God said, y'all took sex, love, and magic. God said sex, love, and magic. Y'all took that and pulled it down into depravity, moral corruption, and wickedness because you interacted with sex, love, and magic in a way in which you were seeking to receive and gain for your own selfish pleasures. God said y'all took love, sex, and magic and utilized it for your own selfish pleasure. You took love, sex, and magic, and you utilized it for your own selfish pleasures. That makes sense. I said, God, that makes sense. That makes sense. God says we're no longer demonizing the makings of you. We're understanding that that is the makings of you, and we're going to utilize the makings of you to create more as the unconditional love in which God wants us to utilize with ourselves, with creation, as we create and make our realities, to emanate in all of God's creation. Not just a galactic creation, not just a galactic concept, but spaces beyond the galactic concept within God. This unconditional love that I want you to make, create, and love with is beyond the galactic concept of God. This unconditional love that I want you to utilize to love on yourselves, love on your creation, love on all, is to span beyond the galactic concept of God. God said y'all took love, sex, and magic and you utilized it for your own selfish pleasures. God's asking us to widen our scope on what reality is. And we do that by tapping into the understandings of who we are in order to relate better with ourselves, relate better with God, to come into higher conscious awareness of who we are, who God is. Like I said, I do shadow work all day. And that is because I have tapped into higher conscious awareness of self. So I feel the energies of myself. I feel the energies of other people. And there's this thing about escaping the matrix. Escaping the matrix. Alert, alert. Alert, 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 alert. Everything is a matrix. It's just different matrices. All of God is they're a plethora of matrices. There's always going to be levels beyond you that can perceive you in ways that you can't perceive yourself. There's always going to be levels beyond you that can perceive you in ways that you can't perceive yourself. There's always going to be levels beyond you that can perceive you in ways that you can't perceive yourself. So when we look down on people that are where they're supposed to be, when we look down on people that are where they're supposed to be, when we look down on people that are where they're supposed to be, because we can see them in ways that they can't see themselves, understand there are levels beyond you that can view you and perceive you in ways that you can't perceive yourself. What are you saying, Ashley? Slow down and enjoy life. Slow down and enjoy creation, because it's not something to beat. Life creation is not something to beat. Life creation is not something to beat. It's something to experience. And as we experience this with accepting every part of ourselves, every dimension of ourselves, understanding that every part of ourselves, every dimension of ourselves is to be utilized to transcend into new aspects and dimensions of ourselves, to experience new dimensions and aspects of ourselves. We allow for God to create and be in new ways. I was writing, God wanted me to write. God wanted to talk to me, so I wrote. And God's like, Ashley, you're holding on to who you were. And I was holding on to who I was because it's a part of like a safety thing. So I was holding on to who I was. God's like, I need you to let go, because you holding on to who you were is stagnating the way in which I want to relate with you. He's like, I want to relate with you in different ways, but I can't do that because you're holding on to who you were. Combustion. That's where we were going. Combustion. The process of burning something, or rapid chemical combination of a substance with oxygen, involving the production of heat and light. Combustion, rapid chemical combination of a substance with oxygen, involving the production of heat and light. Combustion, Oxford Languages. Thank you, Oxford Languages. Combustion, the rapid chemical combination of a substance with oxygen, involving the production of heat and light. God says, I don't need you to shun the makings of you. I don't need you to demonize the makings of you. I don't need you to think less than of the makings of you. We're going to take the makings of you. We're going to hit it with that light. with your divinity, with your Akashic record, with your soul's knowing. And that is going to create a chemical reaction, a combustion, which is going to produce more light or unconditional love. Unconditional love. Why? Unconditional love. Why? Unconditional love. Why? Ashley, your Akashic record says, the bishop that you were said that the things that you went through are not worthy of God. Ashley, that nun that you were in 1432 says that the things that you did aren't worthy of God. Ashley, that medicine man that you were in the bush in 3000 BC says that you didn't do life the right way and it's not worthy of God. But guess what? All the makings of you, all of it, bring it all over here. Bring it all over here and let me love on you. God said, bring all of it over here and let me love on you. Bring all of it, all of it, all of that darkness, all of that depravity when you thought you were alone, when you thought you were doing life alone, when you were doing things that you know you shouldn't have done because you thought it was the only way for you to get by. All of those things, bring them over here. Bring them over here because let me love on you. Let me put it with that light, with that understanding that everything that you went through was a part of the makings of who I needed you to be. Combustion, the rapid chemical combination of a substance with oxygen involving the production of heat and light. As we were in the darkness, as I was in the darkness, in a box, in those boxes that we build to keep ourselves safe, in those boxes that we build to keep ourselves safe, in those boxes that we build to keep ourselves safe, know that those boxes always had perforated size. Know that the boxes were always intended to be pulled away, to be broken down in order to be met with the light, in order to create something new. I'm being guided to sit back and allow Lord Hilarion to channel through myself. Lord Hilarion was also incarnated as Paul the Apostle. Thank you, Lord Hilarion. Thank you, Paul the Apostle. Thank you, Ashley. I am honored and full of gratitude to be channeling through you today, to be channeling through you for this occasion, this grand affair. You know what's happening in the space of creation in ways that most would not understand. And that is okay. That is okay. You can only take the steps that you're being guided to take. You can only communicate what you know in the ways that you know to communicate them in order to shine your light and lead the flock. Your hesitancy to step into the leadership role in which God has created you to manifest and work within and as is a hesitancy that is no surprise or new aspect of becoming who God has created you to become. But to understand that when God calls you, when he calls you, there is no right way to answer. When God calls you, there is no right way to answer. When God calls you, there is no right way to answer. Just pick up the phone. Just pick up the phone, and however you are dragged or led or hesitate towards the light, towards the understanding, towards the wisdom in which God has called you to glean from, to teach whatever reality you find yourself in. Understand that it is okay. You are okay. It is okay. You are okay. It is okay. You are okay. This creation is beyond words. Beyond words. Beyond words. Ashley is seeing an explosion of colors in her mind's eye. Ashley is seeing an explosion of color in her mind's eye. Ashley is seeing an explosion of color in her mind's eye, and she channeled energies from the great beyond. She channeled energies from the great beyond. She was getting into it within her lecture of what she was called to speak on. The creation of God is more than the concept of galactic beingness. The creation of God is more than the concept of beingness even. And Ashley has gleaned the understanding that there are real and true synapse gaps. Synapse gaps being the way in which communication is dispersed between mediums. The human being's concept of understanding is limited. Therefore, the way in which we, creation, Ashley, is able to interpret what she knows, what creation knows, for humanity to be able to glean more of self, more of God, is limited. But know the understandings in which you find within yourself. The understandings in which you find within yourself, the understandings which you find within yourself are true, as every thought, every energy seated within you is to be utilized for your truth. Every thought, every energy seated within you is to be utilized for the makings of you. Every thought, every energy seated within you is to be utilized for the makings of God. As Ashley stated, the way in which we relate with ourselves is the way in which we relate with God. God is expanding. God is regenerating and expanding. God is regenerating and expanding. God is regenerating and expanding. In order to do this, it's already done. It's already done. Ashley has the understanding that it's already done. But we are playing out this understanding within this plane of reality, within many planes of reality, as existence, beingness, is a gift in which we get to act or be as God sees fit for us to act and be. We are acting, we are being called to act and be in ways that allow for the expansion of God. We are being called to act and be in ways that allow for the regeneration and expansion of God to be played out in the galactic concept and many other concepts. We are being called to act and be as we're intuitively called to act and be in order to allow for the regeneration and expansion of God and the many concept of the creation that is our Creator or God. Thank you, Ashley. Ooh, 1 second, guys. So we're going to close this Kingdom Things podcast, this live Kingdom Things podcast installment titled Forgoing the Ideology of Sin, with one thing that I've gleaned. When I was less tapped in with my conscious awareness, with the awareness of the energy that I am, whenever I would be intuitively guided to do something, I would be hesitant. I would be self-loathing. I would be... I would drag about it. It's like, when you're a child and your parent tells you to do something and you're like, you don't want to do it because you're being told what to do. That's what it is. When you're a child and your parent tells you to do something and you don't want to do it because you're being told what to do. When you're a child and your parent tells you to do something and you don't want to do it because you're being told what to do. When my intuition, it still happens. With my intuition, I gleaned, I saw. My intuition, when I was less tapped into the conscious awareness of myself, when my intuition would guide me to do something, like I didn't want to do it because I was being told what to do. And now I have the understanding, I can perceive that my intuition is just like guiding me to do the things that like I really want to do, and it's for the highest good of myself. My intuition is guiding me to do the things that I really want to do and that are for the highest good of myself. My intuition is really guiding me to do things that I really want to do and that are for the highest good of myself. The only reason why I would drag and be like, I would drag and not want to do it is because of the boxes that were built within the makings of me where I felt like I had to keep myself safe. But those boxes were not meant to stay boxes. they had perforated edges that were meant to be torn apart. Those boxes were meant to be torn apart in order to allow our divinity, our intuitive knowings, our Akashic record, our souls to bond with the makings of us, to bond with the makings of us, to bond with the makings of us. Covalent bond. I'm being guided to use the term covalent bond. Covalent bonding is, let me pull up the definition. So, covalent bonding is the interatomic linkage that results from the sharing of an electron pair between two atoms. The interatomic linkage that results from the sharing of an electronic pair between two atoms. The interatomic linkage that results from the sharing of an electron pair between two atoms. It's all science. God is all science, I promise you. God is all science. And God is like the best scientist, the best physicist, the best alchemist ever. He's so good. He's so good. He's so good. He's so good that I'll look at something, I'll come back, I'll look at it again, I'll experience it again, and I experience or look at it in a whole different way. That's how good God is. You can look at something, experience something, and then come back a year later, a month later, 3 days later, and experience that thing in a whole different way. That's how God's creation works. Like, nothing is ever meant to be stagnant or the same. Nothing's meant to ever stay the same. Nothing's meant to ever stay the same. We have to keep moving. We have to keep growing. We have to keep loving ourselves into new dimensions of ourselves. I want to thank you that's watching live, as well as everyone that will be watching at a later time, this Kingdom Things podcast installment. Again, my name is Nicole Phillips, spiritual practitioner, spiritual healer, spiritual creative, young theologian. Within the Kingdom Things podcast, I publish the energies and messages in which I channel from all of God's creation. I amalgamate these energies and messages, publish them in the Kingdom Things podcast. Kingdom Things podcast is available to stream on YouTube and Spotify. Just like yourself, just like myself, you're being called, you will be called, you have been called to step into further alignment with your divinity. We're all being called. We're all being called to step into further alignment with our divinity in order to get moving, in order to experience the regeneration and expansion of God. To experience, it's already done, it's already happened. It's already done, it's already happened. It's already done, it's already happened. We're being called to step into further alignment with our divinity, with our soul's essence, with our Akashic record, in order to experience this regeneration, this expansion of God. Again, my name is Nicole Phillips. I love you. Love on yourself. Self-love is the best love because you have to love yourself in the way in which you want your reality to love you back. Self-love is the best love because it helps you get in alignment with your divinity, with your true self, and expand and learn so many cool things about yourself. And you're like, oh, I'm not just 1, 2, 3D. I'm not just one dimension. I'm not just two dimensions. I'm so many dimensions. I am so cool. Self-love is the best love because you are loving your truest truths. Love on yourself. Again, my name is Nicole Phillips. I am holding spiritual powwow sessions if you feel so led, so called. I channel specific energies and messages to yourself in order to assist you in up-leveling in your reality by up-leveling within the energy in which you are. So what happens is I'll channel specific codes to you, messages to you through energies and words in order to break loose of stagnant energies within yourself that God wants you to transcend. If you feel called, you are able to book my powwow sessions at kingdomthingspodcast.com. Bye.